All right. Thank you so much for doing this, gentlemen. Today is all about breaking barriers, breaking the $1 million barrier, breaking the $5 million barrier and beyond. And you guys are approaching the $20 million barrier, which is super impressive. So there's lots of lessons that you've learned along the way. This is a really interesting stat that I'm going to share, and it puts you guys in the elite category because roughly 9 out of 10 small businesses in America never reach $1 million in revenue. That blew my mind when I read that. But do you guys remember the season where you were like, oh my God, we're going to hit that $1 million mark? And what did your business look like then? I'll start with you, James.
I don't remember exactly that mark. I do remember kind of what we were doing monthly, and it was more the people. It's our guys on the ground, and then taking care of the customer that allowed us to do that. And that's what, broke through that little thing and just kind of kept getting the momentum. And guys that passionately care about their job. It's probably the hardest thing that we do is finding good people because, who wants to?
Yeah.
You got to convince them that. But then when you do get those that really enjoy and take pride in their job, that's what allows you to grow. And that's what's allowed us to grow.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I had to go back and look actually because I didn't remember when that was, and it was a little bit before my time. I've been in this industry for about 10 years now. And so I went back and looked, and 2003 was the year that we first broke $1 million. And we stayed there until around 2014, kind of bouncing back and forth between $1 million and $2 million. But I can't remember exact, 2017, we finally broke through the $2.5 million, 2018, 2019. And then, you get back and you look and you realize you're disappointed with 16 million. And you kind of think back to those days where you're so happy about 2.5 that it kind of brings you back to that.
When you guys were approaching that $1 million mark, what did the business look like as far as people goes?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
No, being that we are with the construction company and we were born out of the construction company, it allowed us to continue to keep growing. And that was kind of, I guess, one of our biggest benefits. But on the other side of it, it allowed us to flex up and down as we needed to, but then allowed guys to come out and really, on the rental side, there's only about 3 or 4, and it just kept going and going.
Yeah, similar story. We had myself, we had, Jennifer, who was our dispatcher, our route builder, our invoicing person, or, just literally every part of the business she ran. And then Chris, obviously. And then we had, I think a total of about 12 people when I got in there. But yeah, just like back to 2003, 2004 time. It's one guy, 2 guys, and a truck that you hope doesn't break down. So, it's interesting that when I joined the company about 9 years ago or so, we had the same number of people working for us that we now have in the office as a CSR team or as a dispatch crew. So we have 12 people in the office now versus the 1 or 2 that we had at the time.
That's the biggest transition we've seen too. I'd say, it's like,
exactly.
This whole thing was run by 3 or 4 on that rental side.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
And now you got more than that sitting just on the phone.
Just answering the phone every day.
That's amazing. Something interesting is that we were talking about this before we started recording, that, businesses often don't reach $1 million because everything runs through one person. One person is to the owners, typically trying to control everything. They have their hand in everything, and it really doesn't allow growth to happen. Was that true for you guys? Was there a point of failure, or how'd you get past that?
Yeah, on the family side that owns our company, they're smart, but they're busy doing everything. And sometimes it takes that outside person to come in and look at it, from an outsider's perspective and see some places where you can do things better. And I think, Matt, you said it best a little while ago. You end up working in your business instead of working on your business. And that, it's profound because that's really what it is. You lose sight of the big picture, or you lose sight of these places that are really going to help you grow, or these new things that will help you grow as a business because you're too focused on that one issue or, that recurring issue that you see.
It's a good segue, because was there one job or one thing that someone oversaw that stayed with them too long? And can you think back to that time where it's like, once we unlock that, then that bottleneck opened?
We've had people do different things throughout the company. Everybody's been very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
We're good to have such a great team.
Yeah, I can echo the exact same thing. When you have a team of people that don't say that's not my job, or I don't know how to do that, they're willing to go out and learn something new. And we've been very, very fortunate to have just a core group of people that have helped us to branch out that way by taking on new tasks, even though it might be reluctant.
All right. So was there a role that you hired when you were getting to that $1 million mark that really helped unlock the business? Because lots of people, they're going to hire more drivers, obviously, as you have that. But was there a critical role that you hired that helped you just take off?
I had to ask Chris, because obviously we had crossed that $1 million number a few years prior. But he had said, Jennifer, who was our dispatcher, our customer service rep, our accounts receivables, our literally just did every job. And the way that she brought in some organization, the way that she kind of transformed the way these guys are in routes every day and made them more efficient, would come in on the weekends and redo an entire route book that was made of, these little index cards basically with each stop. Spending all that time and all that extra effort doing that made us as a company a lot better at what we do. And so she would hate to hear me saying that, because absolutely won't take credit for anything. But yeah, and if you ask anybody that's familiar with those times, that would definitely be their answer as well.
What about for you, James? Was there anyone in particular in your role?
Just getting our name out there. And I'd say we hired Jeremy, who's one of our sales guys. He worked with us in the oil field side of things. We got him to come over on the portable restroom side. And then Heather, who's she's our business manager, is kind of our jack of all trades. Both of those two is right where you'll see an inflection point of just kind of growing to really allowing us to tackle multiple projects, multiple activities. So, it's people. It's the biggest thing.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you both got some great people that helped you advance past that $1 million mark. Let's talk about something you hear a lot when people are below $1 million. It's pricing. If you look at PTN, the Facebook group, I swear that's the most common thing that comes up. Someone should just have a button they hit that tells them the answer every single time. But a lot of people come into the business and they're trying to be a race to the bottom with their pricing because they want to win business. And then as you grow, you realize that's not sustainable. I'll start with you, James. What was your experience with pricing, and what was your mindset as you grew the business?
Colin and both maintained, along with the whole team, a motto of service is what wins business. And we've set our pricing where it needs to be. And no, we're not the cheapest. I mean, it's just not. But we're trying. We are striving. And we are the best in service. And so,
Derek, didn't you say you were the best in service, though?
We are.
Okay.
But I mean, we also have a nice little line. Yeah, and honestly, just to kind of echo what James is saying, what we used to do is we'd look at everybody's pricing and we'd charge a little bit more. And, now we have all of our costs, we have all of our overhead, we have everything figured in, we know what margins we need to be at. And so that more or less dictates where that pricing is. But I don't care what other people charge. And when I get the question, can you match their pricing? My answer is simply, we'll match their pricing when they match our service. And James has the exact same philosophy when it comes to that. That service is what's going to sell, because they've been with everybody who misses those weekly service, who comes on odd hours, who doesn't leave toilet paper, who doesn't do it right. And they've heard all the complaints from whether it's their subcontractors or guys in the oil field or whoever it might be that's actually using that. And so that's when the value of excellent service comes into play. And you can make that argument a lot better when they've had that failure from somebody else. And honestly, the level of service that Aspen provides only makes us better because I know that he's not messing around. And so I know that our techs have to be out and doing the job exactly right by the procedure. And it has to be a quality product every time, because if they don't, it's a simple phone call to them. And I've lost that customer. And it doesn't matter what I'm charging. It doesn't matter what James charges. If we can't fulfill our end of the bargain, then why would they hang around it at any price?
Yes, and also I will say, while we overlap a little bit here in the middle, it does make me feel comfortable calling Derek when it's one of my true hard customers that I know they're not going anywhere. Vice versa. I mean, I've done stuff for his customers, but I don't go straight contact them. And but he knows calling us that we're going to take care of them with a premium level of service. And
that's exactly it. And, this race to the bottom that you mentioned is a very real thing. And I know you've had the same phone calls too, but it's, the average price of a portable restroom has not increased over the last 10 years industry-wide, which is insane when you look at your costs every day and what they've increased and what our costs have increased. Like even just labor rates, leaving the fuel mess out of it, those alone dictate the price increase. But when you have people that want to compete, but only compete on price, that's what you end up being stuck.
I mean, I looked at it just the other day, Derek. F550 that we purchased in 2021, spec'd out the exact same way from the exact same person. That was out the door was about $78,000 at the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And today out the door is $138,000.
Yep. 138.
You quoted the exact same one, it sounds like.
I think we use some of the same folks.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, just that alone.
Not quite double, but close enough for me.
Close enough that it hurts us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys just brought something up, and I've got a bit of a left field question that came to mind. This won't come as a shock to you, but I've never heard anyone that runs a portable sanitation business say, we provide the shittiest service out there. Everyone always says, we provide the best service out there. Can you define for those people that are under $1 million that think they provide the best service? You guys know what it looks like? In your mind, James, I'll start with you. What does good service look like?
It's taking that extra time to make sure that unit is clean, fresh, restocked, showing up week in and week out, and taking care of the customer. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Can they count on you to come out and do that? But as far as level of cleanliness, I mean, I'm sure you guys outfit all of your trucks with pressure washers and everything else, when a lot of the industry doesn't. And so being able to go to some of these job sites, our goal is for that restroom to be as close to new as possible when that tech leaves. And it's fully stocked, it's fully cleaned, all the deodorizers in there, it smells wonderful, which is amazing on some of these. But, taking that extra bit of time to clean that, taking that extra bit of time to find somebody on site to move that vehicle that's blocking it, because you're not going to be back for another week. And so that little bit goes such a long way when a lot of people are used to just dealing with poor service or less substandard service. Everybody's guilty of it. It gets a little too difficult, or maybe it's a little inconvenient. But when you train these guys, when you get people that have bought in to the company, that have bought into the vision that you have, it's a lot easier for them to spend that extra bit of time and make it clean enough for their own mother to use on every single restaurant that they visit. So,
and we call it the Aspen promise. It's service or solved. It's we're servicing or we're solving the problem. Is that waiting for somebody to move a vehicle, waiting for them to bring it out of the mud, relocating the unit, whatever we got to do to get it serviced then in that day. Some of our competition will just, I can't get to it, and drive on and check it off. And
not communicate.
No, and not communicate,
And if you can't fix the problem, it's going to continue to be a problem. So, yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah, if the gate was locked this week, it's probably going to be locked next week.
Thank you so much for defining that, because I think that's something, the service part is what everyone talks about, but no one really talks about what that means. So thank you for defining that. When you're under that $1 million barrier and you're trying to grow, this is a capital intensive business, right? The equipment comes first, the revenue comes later. What almost killed the business when you were under $1 million? I know you have to go back to the coffers to find this out, Derek, but were there any moments where you're like, holy cow, we got to rob Peter to pay Paul?
Yeah. I don't think there's any robbing Peter to pay Paul as much as just, okay, it's trying to keep your techs within a reasonable day, acquiring more trucks. When do you put on another one? Because that's the big jump, it's large further down the road. When do you add for us is when do you add a second location, stuff like that.
No, for sure.
Because your cost increase, overhead increases instantly,
dramatically as well.
And that's okay. I can do that, but I only have, I need another truck, but I really only have enough for 2 days worth of routes. 2 days doesn't pay for a truck. So it's stomaching that for a little while.
Mm-hmm. For us, it was some really large customers who were very slow to pay. All of our customers are on a net 30 or so. And these guys were a net 90, and you were lucky if it was 90. So in the early days, you would ask, hey, did that check come in today? Because payroll's tomorrow, and we need to go and make that deposit because the direct deposit folks get it a little bit earlier. And so, in the early days, cash flow was what was a killer, 100%. And it also dictated, can you add that truck? Can you add this other person? And so when you get stuck in that cycle of back and forth, you end up not doing anything and you stay exactly where you are, right around $1 million. And, maybe you break out of that, maybe you don't. But without just the focus and the drive to do it and a positive path forward, you'll stay.
So, that was the first barrier, getting to that $1 million mark. It only gets harder as you move up that rung. So we're going to talk about going from the $1 million mark to the $5 million mark. And this is where I think the people really come into play, the management really comes into play, your customer service, of course. But research shows that companies stall between 3 and 5 million. And they don't fail because of the market. They fail usually because of the way it's managed. And a classic mistake is promoting some people internally that may not have the experience. Sometimes it works out really well. Derek and we have some of those examples. Sometimes it doesn't. And I know you both have you mentioned earlier your key positions. But today in the business, or as you're growing from 1 to 5, who are those key positions that really help that business accelerate?
Here, you can have the best dispatcher. You can have the best office manager. You can have the best CSR team. You can have the best salesperson. But and I'm sure you're going to echo this, but if you don't have the best guys out there doing it, it doesn't matter how good that dispatcher is. It doesn't matter how good that route manager is. It doesn't matter how good your operations person is. Without those guys in this industry offering that high level of service for where we are, because we're not, like you said, we're not pricing the bottom. We're not driving to the bottom. I have no desire to be there. None of us do. So
we've been there. It's not any good.
No. And that's why we started, because we're on the construction side. So there's not a key person that I would say was the golden ticket. Go out and hire yourself a good dispatcher. Go out and hire yourself a good business manager or a good accountant. Hire yourself the best quality people you can running those routes every day.
Yeah.
And they'll give you the feedback. Hey, this job should probably be on this day. Or they'll help you. They will.
That's fair. And yeah, you're exactly right. You hit on the point of you promote that best person you have for, let's just say, a route service tech to a manager. Their management skills may not mirror their work ethic that they have. And it's not any fault of their own. And then you just set somebody up to fail in that way. So finding and developing the best team that you can with the future in mind is what's really going to help you to continue to grow. Because right now I have 3 or 4 different people that we have different things in mind for, depending on where we end up on that next level. When we're at the 25 million, we're at 50 million. There's going to be opportunities, and I need to identify that talent ahead of time and then develop that in the best way possible so that they slot right in when that opportunity opens itself. And that's going to guarantee the continuation of that growth. That's going to guarantee that we have the right people in the right seats.
James, you just hit on something that I've heard Derek talk about before, so thank you for bringing it up. But you're saying basically hire the best drivers that are out there. But it's not just about hiring the best drivers; it's about training them and your process, your program. Derek, I love your stories about this. Tell us about how you evaluate drivers, even in the interview process, and then beyond that, to make sure that they are providing the best customer service.
The interview process is pretty basic. There's nothing special there, but those evaluations start then. We onboard people with a specific training program with a specific timeline over every system and every procedure that we use. Sometimes we do it a lot better than others. Sometimes we drop the ball somewhere in there, and you have to avoid that at all costs, because even though you're desperate for this person to be on this route, now you're going to have to be correcting bad habits that you've implemented over time.
We have we found some good growth in some people that did not come from other companies.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody always thinks, oh, let's go get the driver from so-and-so or get that driver. And we've had some great people come to us from other companies, but training with our program, training some people organically here. We have some great people that have come because of that, because you don't have to train those bad service habits out of people.
That's exactly it. And when your expectation and your standard is a lot higher than what could be your competitor, right? Laying that foundation from the moment of hire through the onboarding, through everything else, really sets the expectation in the person that you're bringing in. They understand how important these things are to you. And to follow that up, when they know that there are random route audits, that we have auditors that go out with a specified list of things that they inspect, maybe 10, 15 minutes behind them on a route, and they know that that's being checked, it just helps them to do everything a lot better and to start taking some pride in their work. And when they meet these customers on site, the people that they're really taking care of, and they express that gratitude and that thanks for their attention to the detail, to making sure they always have a freshly stocked restroom, then that ownership of that route really takes hold. And once you've got that, if you can keep the bad habits from creeping in, you can't beat that team.
I don't know if people realize this, but in the portable sanitation industry, 70% of the industry is still on things like spreadsheets, binder books, QuickBooks, whiteboards. We've seen lots of that. Push pins on maps. So as you're growing from 1 million to 3 million, I would imagine up to 1 million too, but that 1 million to 3 million, if you're doing that and not using software like ServiceCore or someone else's software, your business is usually going to break. What do you get? You get missed stops. You get, hey, we didn't know that person for a while. Oh my gosh, we left that toilet sitting out there. Now it's got grass growing around it. What was that moment for your businesses where you realized you needed some system to help you run the business? I'll start with you, Derek.
For us, it's really missing that billing. We didn't have any checks or balances in place. And when you're doing it all by hand and doing it through different disjointed programs, different systems, like I said, spreadsheets, things like that, you might find out that, oh wait, nobody's built dumpsters for 2 weeks. And so, crap, I need to do that really quick. But that, and then you'll get the call for a pickup and it doesn't get picked up. Billing is stopped, but now you've got an asset sitting on a job site or someone's front yard for the next year, and you don't have a clue that it's there. And so that was really our point, was when we'd miss those opportunities for billing, because like I said earlier, cash flow is everything in this business early
That's what I was
on.
about to say. Back to your word, cash flow. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Was it the same for you, James, or was it something different that broke the camel's back?
I wouldn't say broke the camel's back, but definitely that was the need for a software. We were running a routing software. We were running another accounting software. Both were two different systems, either some exports, uploads through Excel, through spreadsheets. That billing cycle comes around every 28 days. And the lady doing our billing, it might be another sometimes 15, 20 days before the billing actually got out for that. And, cash flow. So then you got to get it in your customer hands. And then that customer's turning around and paying you even if they're a good customer, they're only pays in 30 days. Well, now that's prolonged out to 60 because you took forever getting a bill to them. That, it takes time. And then back to we didn't start out with roll-offs. We added those on. The disposals, they bill you right then.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't have it out for another 2 weeks and you've already had to pay the dump site.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And those aren't small bills.
No.
Compared to your portable restroom service, it's multiples of what that would be on a 28-day cycle. And so early on, you're talking about a lot of money that you got floating out there that you can't collect. So.
All right, let's move on to talk about route density. So route density is the name of the game, right? If you don't have that, you're not going to be as profitable. You're going to be spending your driver's off their windshield time is costing you a bunch. What's that moment where you go, we need to expand our service area, and so that way we can grow that way? I'll start with you, James. What was that moment for you guys?
I wouldn't say there was a time when we said, hey, let's move further away, or, we want to go over here. It was more, we just kind of kept growing out. And every time you put one out, more people see you through your marketing, through your Google, kind of keep expanding outward and growing your territory.
What about you, Derek?
The best example would probably be our Tyler branch. We went to Tyler one day a week from Longview. When we started having to go 3 days a week, we decided, okay, now it's time to actually expand into that market with a purpose. And so opened our branch there. Some of it grew organically. And like James is saying, as you put those further and further out, that route is going to dictate, how far you expand or what your service territory is.
So according to the Portable Sanitation Industry Benchmark Report, when we look at the categories of where revenue comes from, construction is number one, or the commercial side of the business. Home building is number two, and that's taken a hit, depending on where you are. We're here in Texas, it's actually doing pretty well. In other parts of the country, it's really taking a hit. There's events, and we're in event season right now. How did that mix look when you were going from $1 to $5 million, and how did it change during that period of time? Start with you, James.
We started out primarily residential, and then a couple small events, and then we grew out into commercial. And I would say the diversification of all three is key. You have to have all three, such as home building ebbs and flows or commercial ebbs and flows, you kind of pick it up.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And it's kind of the same thing. Our company started so we could rent rental equipment to people that were building homes or building commercial buildings, things like that. So events weren't really on the radar early on, but they come, and as your reputation grows, as your business grows, as the product lines and services that you offer grow, then that's when that mix comes in. It does. Every single one of those segments ebbs and flows throughout the year, but it's having a healthy mix of all of the above and being able to fulfill any of those orders is what gets you through to the next part. And really, our entire attitude is we don't miss a rent. Whatever they need, we're going to figure out a way to get it. Even if that means I'm going to call James to help me out, we're going to get it done. And that's what's allowed us to continue to service some of these bigger customers and grow to where we could actually do it on our own.
You both called out diversification, and that is totally key because if you have $2 million over here, you're going to get caught flat-footed. Have you ever had a big customer that made you worry that you were out of balance?
Not even that it made me worry that I'm out of balance or anything like that. We've enjoyed the diversification and continue to kind of grow.
Yeah, kind of the same. It's I don't know that it's that where you feel like if they leave, something bad will happen, because we've lost our biggest customer before, but our mix is, like James was saying, so diverse that number two just took number one spot. It didn't hurt us as a company. We've already grown that number two to be well above what the biggest customer was before, but being able to lean into those other areas, to those other customers and those other markets just made up the difference.
When you're going from $1 to $5 million, there's a point where seasonality is a real thing in our industry, right? How do you handle those swings? And obviously, piggybacking on what we just said, it's diversification of your customers. But James, I'll start with you. Like, how do you guys think about the year with seasons?
You know, we have event season. I'd say that's the only season that we really kind of come and go. We prep for it in the spring. It slows down midsummer right now, like it's 104 outside, 105 right now. And then it'll pick back up in the fall. There's, you know, we kind of prep for it, get additional equipment, look at our needs. But fortunately, because we are in such a construction heavy area, we're year round. And we don't have the cold winter shutdowns like some of the northern people do. So we're fortunate.
And those swings have actually kind of changed post-COVID as well, throughout the entire COVID-19 pandemic that was going on for a couple of years. Portable sanitation did not slow down at all. In fact, it ramped up. And even though special events were gone, all of these new pop-up testing centers, all these medical facilities, construction didn't stop either. And so, yeah, having that mix balances everything out. I think for folks that were in our position many years ago, where you're worried about that seasonality, you know, the only thing you can really control is keeping your people productive and controlling overtime. Overtime is a killer when you don't have that same revenue coming in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So that just making sure everybody's taken care of, make sure your people are well taken care of. But maybe it's not a 60-hour week. Maybe it's not a 50-hour week. Maybe we're going to stick to 40 as much as we can.
So one thing that we hear a lot is that, getting business is not the constraint of growth. It's the people that is the constraint of growth. We mentioned that drivers are so valuable to keeping up your customer service and setting that tone. And Derek, I know you and I have talked about this in the past, but like Indeed is a job site that you guys use to recruit. We've also heard about referral programs and things like that from others. Where do you guys find your best drivers?
Best ones are from our other drivers, I would say. You know, if another driver is able to bring somebody, you know, that he's been talking to, that he's probably kind of, I wouldn't say interviewed, but let him know what it's really all about. And they're willing to put their name on them. Most of the time, those are probably our best ones.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they pre-screen all those candidates for you. Yeah, that helps a lot. I mean, Indeed's great for what it is, but if you want to sort and filter throughout the day and just hope you get it right. We've hired a lot of great people through Indeed. We've hired a lot of great people through recruiters and through temp agencies and everything else. But a lot of times that referral from a really good employee that you already have, you already know that at least they're going to fit somewhat within your team. Now you can build the rest of that with them.
Because most likely they come to that employee and said, "Hey, I want to go work with you."
Mm-hmm.
Do either one of you have a referral program that incentivizes drivers to do that?
Yeah, we'll if they bring somebody and they end up working out, then we will offer them some referral bonus.
We need to formalize. So we haven't been really good about that. We need to do a better job, but we also need to push that a little bit more. And I think a lot of our managers will once they get tired of searching through online postings.
And we've gotten some great ones through online. I wouldn't encourage anybody not to do online, but it will give you something to do in the evening if you need to flip through.
James, you mentioned you do have a formal referral program for that. A lot of questions I've heard around this are: do you pay that referral when someone starts, or do you pay after 30 days, 90 days?
We pay after 90 days.
Great.
Get them here, make sure they're going to work out, and 9 times out of 10 they do.
All right, so let's walk past the $5 million barrier and look at the daunting one, which is the $10 million barrier. So here's a stat that's super interesting. Fewer than 1% of American businesses ever cross the $10 million barrier. So congratulations to you both, because you're in that elite status here. So you've both done it. Bonus question: was breaking $10 million easier or harder than $1 million?
I think it was a lot easier, honestly. But one of the things I think that holds a lot of people back is just that you get too invested in one particular way of doing things. You need to listen to other people, in your company. You need to listen to your counterparts at other companies and make decisions based on that. Don't be inflexible to the point where you won't change the system because it's the old sunk cost fallacy. I've already spent $10,000 on this. I can't just throw it all away. But that $10,000 is now holding you back from the next $5 million, the $10 million. And so for us, it's just knowing when it's time to move on to try something different.
For us, it's just continued growth. It's acquiring equipment. It's acquiring people. I keep saying it, people. Mm-hmm. But yes, the first million was harder than the next 10. But you get good people to help manage it and give them the tools they need to be successful, and then support them. And like you said, if some system's not working, let's back up and let's sit down and talk about it and go a different direction. Some people probably don't break through that, like you said, because they're just, I call it stuck in a rut or stuck in doing it the old way. Well, that's the way Dad always did it, so we're going to do it this way. Well,
that answer's not allowed at JOTS. That's the way we've always done it. It's not acceptable. So you have to be able to adapt, because business at $1 million is different than business at $10 million. And every decision is what impacts whether or not you're going to break that or you're going to go bankrupt.
So as around this size, when you're trying to approach that $10 million mark, the metrics are real in the business. If you're not looking at those things and know your metrics well, that's going to break the business. You're never going to get to the $10 million mark. What are some of the metrics you guys started to really pay attention to as you were in this growth phase? Start with you, Derek.
We look at just about every metric that we can. We just have to filter what is actually pertinent to the decision that we're making. And we go by revenue by branch. We go by revenue per employee. That headcount number kind of puts it all in perspective, because if you have one branch that's producing $8,000 a week per route or per driver, and your other one's doing $4,000, what's different? Is it route density? Is it this or that? And all of those things go into helping you understand your business a little bit better and know what's more important as you make those next decisions to purchase more assets, to hire more drivers, to whatever it is. It just understanding which metrics impact which parts of your business and making sure that you have good data.
And is while the financials are important, and we watch those very closely, the other ones that I watch so closely are the unable services, the partial services, the number of services completed, and then how that rolls into overtime. That's probably one of my biggest things is back to service and winning customers. I know we're holding our prices up there. So as long as we're achieving that Aspen promise of, service resolved and getting it serviced every week, and our unables to service are down at 0 and our partial services are down as low as they can be, then I feel like the numbers fall.
And those are great points, because, in our scorecard that we're looking at every week, it is total number of services per driver, number of failed, and number of partial. We also, those numbers give you an idea of, now these routes are probably overloaded and these are underperforming. So now it's time to rebalance all of these and make everything a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, when that driver starts expanding on overtime, the other is we look at is everybody leaves out here about the same time in the morning. And I want everybody here, somewhere around that 4:30 for us in the afternoon. When they start stretching out, okay, what do we got to do? Was it because it was after a storm that came through and this is a one-off, or has this been going on for a couple of weeks? And that's some of the trend analysis that we look at here.
So, growth in this business means capital. Like, you can't grow without buying more trucks, buying more toilets, buying more, in your guys' case, you have dumpsters as well. Can you share the journey of, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are almost scared of just oh man, if I don't know if I can keep financing this or whatever. What was your approach as you were wanting to shoot for that $10 million mark?
Trying to find the best rate having great relationships with several of our banks and finance groups, keeping close contact with all of our vendors. Sometimes even with rates up now, they may be trying to push something at the time or something like that. We try to stay uniform throughout our vendor, and we've got great relationships with several vendors. But being close to them and knowing if there is an opportunity, because you're able to get a lower rate or something right now, you might go ahead and add a truck right now because they're running a special for the end of the year or something like that. That's kind of how we've done. But other than that, we just continue to grow and continue to acquire.
Yeah, we've used, kind of the same, every single resource there is, whether that's funding growth with debt, hopefully the right way, using cash, using that free cash flow to cover new assets and things like that. But, the main thing is just making sure that it is the right decision for your company in that particular position. So we've been fortunate enough to have large cash reserves to use to grow. We would take advantage of financing when rates dipped, or when, like you said, having that personal relationship with banks in your community. When you have that personal bank says, you need to jump on this now because this product's not going to be available, or this rate is going to increase. Once you form those relationships, you can kind of grow your business even more efficiently.
Speaking of capital investment, as you're getting to the size of approaching that $10 million mark, one big thing comes into play, and that's taxes. And there are certainly ways that you could use taxes to your advantage when it comes to purchasing equipment. James, what has been your experience with that?
I think that's back to the relationships. The banker, and I didn't, vendors. Another one is great accountant, great financial people. And while you're in that smaller market, you may be doing it internally, you may be doing it with a smaller accountant, but now that you have crossed that larger mark, make sure you're with somebody that is looking out for your best interest, and you're not just talking to them on April the 1st, preparing for April 15th, but you got to be talking to them throughout the year, and it has to be a relationship.
Yeah, a good CPA firm is one of the number one things you have to have, because not only do you take advantage of some of these tax breaks that you can have, or some of this depreciation, or anything else that goes along those lines that people way smarter than me understand. They also tell you, okay, now you need to hold cash, you need to finance that with this, and then later on we're going to use that cash for something else. It's part of your overall financial strategy, and your growth strategy needs to have a very competent accountant in the mix.
Right. So thinking about, growth comes in multiple ways, and one is organic growth, which we've been talking about, and one is acquisition. You could acquire a smaller business that's maybe another, area than yours, expand your service area that way. Derek, I know you guys have made some acquisitions over the years. What was the mindset in that point along the journey to $10 million to acquire others?
Part of that was just based on where we were going. So just like when you decide to expand your service area, do you expand your territory, do you change these routes, or do you open a new location? Sometimes we would pull up all of our rentals on a map, see where everything was, and see how far away those were. And in the case of one of the acquisitions we made early on, there's somebody right there in that spot where we were concentrated. And it started with a 5-minute phone call and ended up with making an acquisition of another portable restroom company, which immediately gave us 800 additional customers overnight. And so that helped us to service that area more efficiently. Acquisition can be great. It's worked really well for us in a couple of instances, but I don't want to say it's a lot more work. It's just a lot different work.
We've done it all organically. I'm not saying we haven't looked at some, and I'm not saying we won't do any acquisition. We've really thought about it. The other part of it is back to that service level. Our service level is so high up here that am I buying somebody else's problems? And so you really have to find a unique one that sounds like y'all were able to find a couple that would fit within your program.
Had some issues.
Oh,
but yeah.
I couldn't imagine. But It's, so are you going to have to go and then take their units and take everything up to here? Or are you better off to go in and start offering that premium level service in that market and, like better, stealing their customers, not through price, but stealing it through quality and service.
Yeah. And it works both ways. And it's organic growth takes a little bit longer. There's that instant satisfaction of, okay, now I've just added this much revenue through a large purchase, but this much revenue every month. And so now I can expand faster and faster. But yeah, like you said, a lot of those assets aren't up to your standard. You're going to replace most of their fleet. You're going to replace most of their portable restrooms. And sadly, you're going to replace a lot of people because that standard is higher. The expectation is higher. And some people are just really adept at meeting that new challenge. And some people just don't want to change. That's the unfortunate part about it, because you always want to keep all of these people because they've grown that business to where it was. And at that point, it caught your eye enough to be a target. So you want those people that drove that success, but you've got to maintain your standard.
Your standard and your systems, not in this industry, but in the other side of the construction, I've seen where people, I'm sure I'd be interested here. I'm sure you ran into some of this. You get some people in some of these places you acquired. It's maybe not the person you work to deal with, but some of the employees that are there. And they may be one of those key people, but they are, we've done it this way. We've done it since, we've always done it this way.
Sure.
And you got to say, hey, look, we used to do it that way. I see what you're saying, but this is how we do it.
And the right people understand that.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
The private equity industry has hit the portable sanitation industry pretty hard lately, and we're seeing lots of companies get acquired. If someone were to come knocking on y'all's doors, and I'm sure they have, where's that? Everyone's situation can be different, whether, hey, I want to retire at this point in my life and whatnot. But what helps you make the decision of, hey, I think about that, or I'm really trying to hit these goals and grow this business to a certain point? I'll start with you.
I mean, most of those calls and emails, you should just label potential spam, because private equity is great for certain market segments. It's probably great in our industry somewhere. I'm sure it is. So there have been success stories, there have been horror stories. But really, to me, it's more, what do you want to do? Do you want that quick out, that exit, and to just, recoup some of the money you've spent growing this? Or do you want to keep going? And like you said, it's different for everybody. Some people, it might be a wonderful time to retire. That they might have built something big enough that they don't have anybody that really wants to take it over or anything like this. Maybe it's a good exit plan for them. But most of it is just seems like a lot of cold call and a lot of people that don't understand the industry and really how to exploit what you've started and grow it.
There's so many different answers to that one, because, it all depends on everyone's unique situation. They have to define what they want out of it. Like you said, are they looking for retirement? It's maybe a family member that don't have somebody to pass it on, don't have somebody that wants to. Now it's time for them to, go or retire. They want to go on, or are they looking for it from means of financing? Well, if they're looking at that, then, they also need to make sure it's the right fit, because, is somebody going to come in there and try and tell you how to run your business, and they're going to try and apply, they may not be totally anywhere in the sanitation industry, and they're going to try and apply different metrics and different methods to the sanitation industry and tell you how you're supposed to do things. And then next thing you know, you're making decisions based solely on numbers and not based on service, not based on growth, and based on what's needed for your business.
All right, let's move on to a really fun question. So you guys are, multiple years into this. You're approaching that $20 million mark. Let's rewind the clock. Having all the knowledge you have today, if you were to start over and start the business today, you got one truck, 28 units on a trailer, 0 customers. With your knowledge today, what would you do in that year one that you think would explode you the fastest? Start with you, Derek.
I think one of the most important things is to understand how important a sales presence is in your market. Hiring that salesperson is tough because now you have another person to pay. but they're also going to generate that revenue that you need to grow. And if you're starting from behind and you're only trying to steal customers that already have restrooms from somebody else, you're going to have to do it on price because you don't have a reputation yet. So really understanding how important sales is in this position or in this business, but also not putting off hiring those key people that are going to help you grow, because maybe it's difficult, but you can suffer through making payroll for a while for the eventual payoff that those people will bring.
And it's going to take that salesperson some time to get their feet and get some traction. I'd have if you do hire a salesperson, make sure it's a good guy with a great attitude, lady, either one, but be prepared to stand behind them and let them get traction and let them get going. It will pay off for you. Right. The other one that I would say for us, Derek, was marketing. Of course, coming from the oil field, coming from the construction, we had a much narrower customer base, et cetera. I know things are changing with the AI world and all of that. Might be a whole nother different topic for you to do sometime, Matt. But marketing, spend that extra money on getting a good quality website and good quality marketing.
James, I'm glad you said that, because we're in the unique position where we get to see a lot of the industry's websites and their marketing and whatnot. I think this is one of the biggest missed opportunities in the portable sanitation world. It's an opportunity that, we have a docket and we look at the dumpster industry. Those folks are heavily invested in marketing. Why do you think that people don't invest in marketing in portable sanitation? And what advice would you give them if they're like, marketing's marketing?
I don't know. I don't know why we didn't, as much as we just didn't understand the marketing side of things. Kyle and I are both very operationally driven, as well as the team that we had around us was operational because we grew out of construction. So we were focused on operations. We're not marketing people, I guess you would say. So we actually got some people to help us externally.
Same.
And, it was hard to stomach. They're not cheap. But just like stomaching that salesperson, it was worth it in the long run to do it. At first you're like, it's really going to pay off. And back to the salesperson, the marketing. It's not going to happen just because you start this month. It's not going to change next month. It's not going to change there. It can take 6, 8, 9 months before you really start to see it pay off. And I think that's the other side, is people they stop before they actually get the benefits.
All right, let's land this plane with a really cool question. There's someone listening to this right now that is sitting at, under $1 million. Maybe they've hit the $500,000 mark, and they are just white knuckling this. They're holding on. They're doing everything themselves. What's the one piece of advice you would give them to do this week that could start the change? Start with you, James.
Get someone good to help you and not do it all yourself, such that you can start working, on the business, not in it. I think that's what you said earlier. I love that phrase.
That's what he said too.
Yeah.
It's a good phrase now. I like it.
It starts out, a lot of people small, they're cleaning, they're doing it all. But as soon as you can stomach bringing that guy on to run the truck, so that you can start working on things and growing to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's just call me. We'll do it. No, but in the other part to that too is find that other like-minded person, the person that's doing the same thing. Just like James is doing up here with Aspen, just like we're doing with JOTS in Northeast Texas. You find your counterparts, build that community, that grow together, but also that helps you expand your footprint. It helps you to take care of customers that you want to take care of, that you want calling you back. James has a lot of knowledge in certain parts of this that I don't. I've got some knowledge in certain parts of this that maybe they haven't run into just yet.
Yeah, for sure.
And so using that collectively instead of, we still want to compete. Absolutely. We want some of the same jobs, but it's better because the two of us competing, but cooperating with each other and working to build each other up raises that level for all of our competition in this area. And so we'll stand out a lot better than we would just trying to fight each other. And so use those resources. But if anybody, has questions, reach out to people. I mean, if you want to get out of the business altogether here in Texas, give me a call. We'll work something out.
Oh,
But at the same time, lean on those who have the industry knowledge, who've been through the growth. Lean on those people for every bit of information you can get, because you can skip a lot of the problems that you and I have had to deal with over the last however many years.
and building those relationships. I mean,
Yes.
that's huge.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending this time with us. The information you shared was so valuable to our audience. So thank you, James from Aspen Site Rentals. Thank you, Derek from JOTS Rentals. And we will see you in the next one.